Okay, so these last number of techniques, these are just fun things that you can do with watercolor. And the first one we're going to do is glazing. And I have my board upside down right now so I could fit it easily onto the camera. I still have my board at an angle. And what I've done so far is I put this yellow strip and I let it dry all the way. And what glazing basically is about is understanding that watercolor is transparent, or most, watercolor paints are very transparent, which means that it's see-through. It's like looking through glass, if you will. So like if I take some blue and I put a stripe over it, over this yellow, you can see how the transparency affects it. Or let's say, how about I grab some red and I glaze it over this yellow, what's going to happen? So that's basically what glazing is. And you can practice, like I think yellow is a good undercoat to put underneath because it's the most easiest that you can see those drastic differences when you glaze one color on top of another color. Okay, the next one I want to address is soft edges and sharp edges. And I'm redoing this one because the demo demons have got a hold of me and I messed it up. And so to create a soft edge, you need to have wet paint with wet paint. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Get some red paint. Let's say I'm going to make a triangle. And while it's still wet, I'm going to put adjacent to it some blue. And I want to create that soft edge. The trick to it, in my opinion, is you want the colors to be kissing. Like I'm getting close enough that it's going to bleed. Or you just barely want them to kiss to get that soft edge. Let's see, and I need a Kleenex quickly, but you can see it kind of bleeding there. And I think I just got it just a hair too wet. I'm going to suck up just a little bit of water. So I'm creating a soft edge. For a sharp edge with your watercolor, I would wait for stuff to dry, so I let this red triangle dry here. And I'm going to come in, just kissing up right to it with my paintbrush to get that nice sharp edge. Still not the best sharp edge I've ever made. Like this one, where it was supposed to be a sharp edge turned into a soft edge, that's probably a better example there. Okay, so now we've got these next couple ones. Here we've got some salt. Okay, so the trick, and we also have rubbing alcohol. The trick between the salt and the rubbing alcohol is that you can't have the paint too wet and you can't have it too dry to make it work. Okay, so I'm going to get some paint. We're just going to grab some green because I want to. I'm going to do a section for the rubbing alcohol. Let's see. I'm going to spread this out just a little bit, a little more. Can't have it too wet, you can't have it too dry. I'm going to take a little bit of table salt here. And what the salt does is it's going to absorb the paint, and when it dries it leaves this really cool texture behind. And the rubbing alcohol, hopefully I'm not too dry yet. I'm just going to get some drips. Ooh, I have no control right now. There we go. I'm afraid I'm going to do too much, but it's going to leave these really cool ring patterns. Anyway, really fun to play with. So we also have the straw that you guys can do. So I just will give everybody a straw, or you can get a straw from home. This one requires a little bit more paint. And I can blow the color around while I'm working. Anyway, whatever you choose to do with that. Alright, masking tape. We're going to skip over feather it out to the very end. So if you have a section of your painting you want to keep white, and you're worried that you're going to paint over it, you can use some masking tape. or there's also some masking fluid, and we have both. The masking tape, you just, use the tape, block off what you need to be block off. Masking fluid, it's like this liquid. Do not use your best brushes for that fluid. So the masking fluid is this little jar right over here. I can dip a brush in it and paint whatever I need to on it. Again, do not use your nice brushes to put in this paint fluid. Come get me and I'll give you a crappy brush that I don't care gets ruined. And so anyways, I'll move this camera over here just for a minute. So I kind of painted like a smiley face over here. So when I paint over it, what happens is it stays out of the masking fluid, and what I do is I get an eraser and I can erase it off. Or if I use the masking tape, now let's say I'm painting la-di-da-da-da. When it's all dry, I can peel off that masking tape, and so it leaves the shape that I want. Okay, feathering out, or I've also heard it be called lifting. What that is let's say you kind of screw up, or maybe you want to lighten something, or you're looking for kind of an interesting texture to add to your painting. What I'm going to do is get my brush wet. I'm going to dry it with my paper towel, and I'm basically lifting the paint out of there. So like the wet brush is picking up that watercolor. So that's something you can do. Or, here's another option, is let's say you really mess up, and we know that watercolor is not the most forgiving medium in the planet. Magic erasers are awesome. I just have to get the magic eraser wet, and maybe I can tape off an area that I want to get lighter, but I can also pick up a lot of paint using a magic eraser. Anyways, experiment, have fun. There's a lot of different kinds of things you can do. You can see the salt turned out pretty cool right there. Okay.